Hi team, in this video I'll be walking you through the types of items that we have access to from within the Illuminate IBX test creation software. When you do launch an IBX test, remember it's going to auto default you to the build view. We're just going to click browse. You'll see that I already have my standards that I'm going to be filtering through, my item type selected, and then over here you'll see that here are the 20 different item types that are supposed to be available to us from within the system. Right now it is actually pulling from all items within the system just because I don't have my standards selected, but as I select those standards it will break this down depending on what item choices I have. When you are selecting items, just know that if you leave everything unchecked, it's going to look for all items associated with all item types, which can be a little bit disconcerting when you're trying to create a balanced test with different item types. Now, I did mention that there are 20 different item types. There are currently 5 item types that do not work. The first one is charting, or not. I shouldn't say they do not work. There's no items yet, and so those are coming down the road. But charting, graphing, multi-part, drawing response, and ordering do not currently have any items created for math and science within the item bank. Illuminate has ensured me that those are coming. They just haven't got that developed yet, but it's already kind of in the system. So just remember that those 6 currently do not work: ordering, multi-part, graphing, drawing response, and charting. And we'll start with everybody's favorite, multiple choice. So multiple choice is pretty straightforward, not much to say here. Just one thing with multiple choice, that there are 2 different types now. There's multiple choice and multiple select. Notice that on multiple choice it is radials. Okay, so when the student sees this, their answer choices will be in radials. If I switch over to multiple select, which if I can encourage teachers to include more of these on their assessments, it would be great, because this is the highest missed item type on the state test, is these multiple select questions, because students will typically pick one answer and then move forward. But if I move on to question 2 on my test, you'll see that the questions are now check boxes. So a good little trick to teach our students, specifically the younger ones, is if they see radials, they know it's one answer. If they see check boxes, they should be thinking multiple answers. And the question will say sometimes select all that apply, sometimes select 2 or 3 or however many. More often than not, it will be select all that apply, and we've just got to train our students to look closer at those. Our next item type is MER. Now this is one of the, or math equation response. Now this is one of the technology enhanced style items. These do auto grade. What's nice about these type is, depending on the level of question when you pull it up, will depend on the level of the equation editor that students would have access to. So in this case, it is a 4th grade question. So the minute I click into the box to put in my answer, this little equation editor pops up so that students could go in and put in the symbols that make their question work. So if they were going through here and they needed to put in 45.5, they could use the symbols there and the numbers to create that equation. It's not a calculator, it is a math equation editor. Now what's really nice about these is these do autocorrect. One thing that I would say is make sure you preview these before you give the test, just so you can kind of guide kids to what the question is specifically looking for. Like in this case, do they have pizzas as part of the answer in the question? If they don't, then it may get marked wrong if students were to label it with pizza. So that's just kind of one of those things where it's looking through a spreadsheet of correct answers, and if it doesn't match up, even if it's right, it will be marked wrong. So preview those ahead of time, but they do autocorrect. The next type is explicit constructed response, which is very similar to math equation response. However, when I click in the box, no equation editor pops up. This is just one of those ones where you put in your answer and you move from there. These also auto grade, but the same idea applies like MER. It is very, very specific. So if it's a word problem and it's 335 pounds, make sure when you look at it, when you preview it before you assign the test, that it is including that label, or else you may inform students to leave that off. So this is another really, really important type of item. The previous two, the math equation response and the explicit constructed response, are now about 45% of the state test. So those are two important items that we really want to expose our students to. The next type that we have is going to be our drag and drop, or drag in the blank is what they call it now. But it's as simple as students grabbing the one that they want to move and moving it over to the box. If they realize that they put one in the wrong place, it's just as easy as coming over and dragging it back out, or they can cover it with another one and it will update it to that. That is drag in the blank. Our next item type is inline dropdown. So this is specifically really popular with a lot of the ELA for closed style questions, things like that. But in this case, it is in the math problem. And basically, it's just a set of questions with a drop down where students would go in and put in the response they're looking for. On the ELA side of things, it's usually embedded within a sentence. Students that hit a drop down, there'll be multiple words that they select or ideas that they'll select from for their answer. Our next item type is classification. Now this one is very similar to drag and drop. I almost think it's the same thing, but it'll start off without these in there. Sorry, as I've been practicing, I forgot to move those back out. But basically in this question, students would just drag or classify which one goes with which idea. Once again, if they need to move it, they can just hover over it, drag it around. It is not locked in until they finish. All right, our next item type is hotspot. And this is a very cool type. Basically works with an image where things are clickable within the image. So in this case, it says to click segment BC. So if I chose BA, notice that it highlights BA there, and then the little green box that says save pops up. But if I choose BC, now it will highlight that area and the green little box will pop up again, letting me know that my answer choice has saved. So it's almost like multiple choice, but over an actual image, and you just got to select the right one. Our next item type is, this is the matching table. So in this case, basically you're going through and you have a set of ideas that you're just going in and trying to select which one is the correct one. An important thing about this is these do act a lot like multiple select, to where it is all or nothing. Notice that this is also a multiple select within the multiple problems, meaning that two of these could potentially be answers in each row. So this is a very high level style of question to where there's a lot of things going on here. Another important type to expose our students to. It does auto grade, but once again, these are also all or nothing. All right, our next item type is going to be multiple binary. This one's interesting, but basically it's very similar to the inline dropdown, except it's just going to have a prompt with a set of questions underneath, and you just go in and select which one is correct. So very similar to that inline dropdown question, except this is more of a column versus a dropdown. Next item type will be a number line. Now with number line, as you can see, there is a point, and then the students would just click on the area where they want their point to be. If you need to move the point around, you just drag it. But initially, to start it, students would click somewhere on the number line and then go in and place their value. Once again, the answer saved box will come in when it's ready to go. Once that answer saved box is there, they're ready to move on to the next question. Our next type is match list, and this is very similar to drag and drop, just more along the lines of maybe a science or a ELA style question, but same thing. We're just going to drag and drop things into their place. More along the lines of an ELA drag and drop question. We have constructed response. Now, constructed response is the one item in here where teachers have to go in and grade. So for constructed response, it will give students a prompt, and then they have to go in and type that in, and teachers would have to go into enter edit or use the constructed response tile to put in their answer. So students would come in here and they would start to type in their answer. Okay, and notice that as the students expand, it will also expand the box, and this checkbox here allows me to say I'm done, and that's it for constructed response. Just remember, teachers do have to go in and grade these after the test is completed. Hot text is basically where students would go in and, it says select 2 words from the paragraph, so they would go in and they would select which 2 words they wish to use, and it will save that out. This one also auto grades, so pretty basic. If you need to click on another one, you'll have to unclick that one that you currently selected and then go back and click the word that you wish to have instead. Our final item type is evidence-based selected response. This one is super important, and it's another one that we should expose our students to as often as possible on the ELA side. But this evidence-based selected response is conditional, meaning that if they miss this first one, they've automatically opted out of missing the second one. They are connected. They're basically a multiple select with 2 questions within it. So if they go in and they get curious and that is wrong, they've automatically missed this even though they get it right. So these are super duper important. It is a big component of the SBAC and also an item type that students are really struggling with on the state test. That wraps up the item types that you have access to from within IBX.